Well, good morning, everybody. It's morning now after the Thursday night football game. My name is Paul Lisden Jr., aka Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. It's 1:20 in the morning, so whether you guys are crazy enough to still be awake or you're watching this after the fact, we're streaming live right now on our Heavy on Jets Facebook page, my YouTube channel, and also my Twitter account. Guys, you can participate on the show. Feel free to commiserate, vent, whatever the case happens to be. Feel free to contribute in any way that you can. Again, for free, you can like the video, hit subscribe down below. I couldn't go to sleep. Here's just the fact of the matter. I couldn't go to sleep after that. I had to get all this stuff off my chest, and man, I was Zach Wilson's perhaps most colorful and passionate supporter. I believed that Zach Wilson could do it. I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. Even the last game with all the chunk plays, I'm like, I could see it. He could be the guy. He could be the franchise. And after that Jaguars game, I'm going to be honest. Zach Wilson's not the guy. The era's over. It's not going to happen here. Maybe it'll happen somewhere else. It's not going to happen here. And I know I'm this optimistic guy and all these other things. In a game that was do or die, that's how it was set up for the New York Jets. They had 2 home games in 4 days. Detroit Lions, sub 500 team. Jacksonville Jaguars, sub 500 team. Both games at home. Everything was on the line. You knew what was on the line, the playoffs and everything else. Everything was right there for the New York Jets. They freaking laid an egg tonight. And I got to be honest, this was one of the most deflating losses in recent Jets history. I don't want to say overall Jets history. Maybe that's hyperbolic. But heading into this game, prime time, again, against an inferior opponent, an opponent that was hot coming in, red hot. Okay? I'm not trying to crush the Jaguars here, but the Jets were a better team by record at a minimum, if not talent and everything else. And they lost. And they laid an egg. Here's a fun fact. I wouldn't call it so fun, a depressing gosh darn fact. The Jets scored a field goal in this game. They scored a field goal with around 11:29. I don't have the stat in front of me, but I tweeted it out earlier. They scored thanks to a Quentin Williams strip sack, his 12th sack of the year. By the way, that's tied for the 6th most all-time in a single season by a Jets defender with Muhammad Wilkerson. Fun fact there. And he gets a strip sack, first third down. Jets immediately get the ball, and this is the moment. Like, okay, phenomenal. Let's see what the Jets can do. 3 plays, negative 4 yards. Jets kick a field goal. They kick a field goal with like 11 minutes and 30 seconds left in the first quarter. They never score again. That's pathetic, man. That's pathetic. Absolutely, unabashedly pathetic. So I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted. I was so ready for this game. I was telling my family about this game. We're 2 days from Christmas, technically, right now that we're 1 something in the morning. Like, I was so jazzed for this opportunity because by winning this, you made the other games matter. Now, technically, according to Michael Nania, I'll throw that up on the big board. Not that I feel very great about this even at all, but I guess I'm going to throw it up on the board. Is that technically the Jets still have a path to the playoffs, which apparently isn't crazy. And I'm going to be honest, even the most optimistic guy, me, I don't feel great because the main recipe, I have the joke. So you're telling me there's a chance. Here's Michael Nanny of Jets X Factor. If you still care, here's the Jets' clearest path to the playoffs. Win their last 2, which again is the hardest part of all this because they've lost 4 in a row. But at Seattle, at Miami, so you need that. Miami loses at least one of their next 2 games. They play the Packers and the Patriots. We'll see. New England loses 2 of their next 3. They play Cincinnati, Miami, Buffalo. That's very possible, and so is Miami's for that matter. And Las Vegas loses at least one of the next 3. Steelers, 49ers, Chiefs. They'll probably lose at least 2 of those, if not more. And the Jets would be in the playoffs, which, again, is still kind of crazy. So if you still want to believe out there, the belief is there. But I'm going to be honest, I don't. Mike White would have to be back and all these other things. But back to the point here. This was just freaking embarrassing. This was an embarrassing loss. It was a pathetic loss. And I think there's something that I ignored and I didn't give it proper credence, but I'm going to go to this tweet from Nick Wright. I'm not a big Nick Wright fan. I think he's kind of a douche, but I think he made a very important point that I'm going to be honest, I have ignored my entire time anyone has ever brought this up in the history of ever, but I can no longer ignore this statistic any longer. And that is simply this from Nick Wright. Quote, it's absolutely amazing that the moment literally any quarterback other than Zach Wilson plays for the Jets, their offense marketably improves. It's just factual, man. I tried to say that's crap and circumstances and this or that. Josh Johnson comes in. Joe Flacco comes in. Chris Streveler. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I cannot believe the Jets coaching staff actually leapfrogged Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco for Chris Streveler, who, by the way, is on the practice squad. He was simply elevated for this game. And we thought, maybe a Wildcat package or two, or maybe taking us all the way through the rest of the third quarter and the entire fourth quarter. I couldn't, like, us fans were like, haha, Chris Streveler. Hopefully he gets a chance, right? Like, hopefully Chris Streveler gets that opportunity. But I think a lot of us in the back of our head said, like, that's not really ever going to happen, but that'd be cool. And then they actually put him out there. Saleh after the game says, well, we were trying to get a spark, and then we just kind of left him out there. Okay, you don't want to call it a benching for Zach, a replacement. Call it whatever you want. 2 of the last 3 games, Zach Wilson has seen the bench for one reason or another. Like, I can't believe they actually did that. I think someone tweeted at me, again, the proper term is having the balls to do that. You bench a number 2 overall pick for a former Canadian champion. I still can't believe that actually happened. And as soon as Chris Streveler came in the game, immediate success. Joe Flacco, immediate success. And I think Joe Flacco sucks. But Joe Flacco, Josh Johnson, Mike White, literally anyone, a warm body, they're at quarterback. The Jets are fantastic. Or at least they're doing something. Like, Zach Wilson just looks incompetent back there. I saw a bunch of tweets like, wow, he's going to be one of the biggest quarterback busts in NFL history. I don't know about any of that. All I'm just saying is it's been disgusting, and I've tried to defend it. I've tried to rationalize it. There's no rationalizing anymore. Zach Wilson stinks. Now, is there a lot of mitigating circumstances today? The offensive line continues to play like dog crap, self-inflicted wounds with stupid penalties, and Corey Davis drops. God, get that guy off the team. But, like, sure, are there all those things? But I can't use those excuses anymore, man. Zach Wilson stinks. He can't get the ball where it needs to go. It's just freaking over, man. It's time to rip the Band-Aid off and it's just finito. Over. Zilch. Dunzo. It's over. It's just over. And it hurts me because the number 2 overall pick, the belief, the faith, the almost shoulda, coulda, woulda in that season to get Trevor Lawrence, like all of it. And it sucks. And we can all kind of embrace all that. And I'll get to all your comments, guys. So if you're commenting, keep commenting away. Again, this is an interactive show. We'll get to all you guys. I'm just kind of venting here for a second. That it's over. And now we have to start seriously exploring all other options this offseason. The Jets have no choice. They got to turn the hat backward, and they need to evaluate every legitimate option. Old guys, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, trade guys like Derek Carr. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a free agent. I mean, you got to go deep into the pool to find something. And I will play this right now. This is probably the best time for it. I'm going to share a clip. This is from the Jets pregame show. I don't always get a chance to watch the Jets pregame show, but I had an opportunity today ahead of prime time. Because there's no other games on. I didn't really have to do anything else. But I'm going to play a quick clip from our good buddy, Ryan Fitzpatrick, who, of course, is part of the NFL on Prime broadcast team. And he gave a pitch to any veteran quarterback that will be available on why they should pick the Jets. And it was on the Jets actual show, so I found it fascinating. So we're going to play this clip for you guys. Again, this is Ryan Fitzpatrick on the Jets pregame Central show. You see Eric Allen, Quincy Enunwa, Ryan Fitzpatrick speaking with Ethan Greenberg. Also, Anthony Beck is on the show. Listen to this 13-second quick clip on Ryan Fitzpatrick giving the pitch to any veteran quarterback out there.
If you're looking at this from the outside looking in, as a veteran quarterback and an attractive place to go play, this team has a lot of pieces. Great defense, young guys, Breece Hall when he gets healthy. This is a really exciting future for the Jets.
It is a very exciting future. Now, I will say that quote unquote great defense had a lot of struggles today. Now, still, they held the Jaguars to whatever it was, 19 points. The Jets lose 19-3. But still, you got the defense. You have Brees Hall. You have Garrett Wilson, who, by the way, was the betting favorite heading into tonight for the Offensive Rookie of the Year. We'll see if the crazy musical chairs at quarterback will mitigate whether or not he's ultimately able to win the award or be in a position to win the award. I know he had that fumble at the end with the weird roundhouse kick to the ball, but obviously Garrett Wilson is special. And Sauce Gardner, by the way, the betting favorite for defense rookie year. But you have all this talent. Brees Hall is going to be back. Elijah Tucker is going to be back. So it is a compelling case and an interesting video clip there from Ryan Fitzpatrick that really, if you put the Jets up with anybody, and someone's looking to make a run, whether that's Aaron Rodgers in some crazy trade, Tom Brady's a free agent, Jimmy Garoppolo's a free agent, Derek Carr would have to be a trade thing. Like whoever the quarterback you decide, say, hey, look at us, look at this offer, look at this team. It is compelling from that standpoint, but it is time to evaluate all those options. Okay, enough of my random rambling and screaming. Let's get into a couple of comments here. JETS mess. Isn't that accurate? Yo, what's up, man? Matthias, why would you do this? I don't know. Matthias, I still don't know. JETS, maybe he could play for Carolina. I could see it. I could also see it as part of a deal. Like, let me just throw one out there. This is crazy, but I saw Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus, propose the Aaron Rodgers trade. If you, in part of that Aaron Rodgers trade, could sell off Zach Wilson as part of some of the assets, that could be kind of interesting. But again, whether or not you want Aaron Rodgers, that's up to each individual. But I would imagine in any of those trade conversations, like the Raiders, because that's how you'd have to acquire Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, that's how. And I'm not thinking of any Lamar Jackson, I guess, in some crazy tag and trade. Like outside of those, the rest of them are acquired in different means. But I would not be surprised if the Jets explored some options to just hit the eject button. Maybe they just keep him and let him, be that second, third guy to develop. But man, it's tough. Bud Tucker on our Facebook page, that offensive line did nothing for him. You're damn right. They were god awful. They were terrible. So many collapsed pockets and things of that nature. Brutal. Hawk just crying emoji. That's exactly how I feel, man. It's just pain, man. Pain. Heartache, as my future father-in-law says down in Boston. Heartache. Heartache, Paul. Heartache is what he says to me. Christian Mejia. Zach needs to go. His passes hang in the air, and he can't read a defense worth a damn. This was embarrassing in capital letters. Then with Strevler, he's Taysom Hill at best. Mike White is a younger Joe Flacco. Let's finally bring in our own guy. This is ridiculous. Yeah, let's go through a couple of the guys. Chris Strevler, right? So he was fun, and he was fun in the preseason, but basically they kept running the same play over and over again with the RPO, number one. Number two, the one play we went like, wow, he missed a 72-yard touchdown. CJ Uzama on the play that he hits him for 30. It was poorly underthrown, and CJ had to kind of climb back to it and catch it, dive on the ground. Any normal, run-of-the-mill, average quarterback hits that guy wide open. It's 72 yards to the house, and that's a touchdown. All of a sudden, it's a 10-16 game or 10-19, whenever the score was for that. And I think it would have been 10-16 because it was in the third quarter. But he missed it. But, like, we all celebrated it. That was part of my article I posted for Heavy on Jets tonight, is that, like, we celebrated it because it was just positive yards, which, again, is that referendum on Zach Wilson. So, brutal. But to your point, so Chris Strevler isn't the future. Mike White, to me, I think there is a case to be made potentially, but how much does that rev your engine if next year it's Mike White and Zach Wilson as your quarterbacks? Like, do you think the Jets are a Super Bowl contender with Mike White? I know we've played the game where if he was a quarterback the entire time, the Jets would be this, or this. The two New England games, the Detroit game, the Jacksonville game. But there are quarterbacks, let's be honest, that are better than Mike White out there. Again, I mentioned a bunch of them in my random quarterback answers. So I think that's a conversation as well. Hawk, what a flippin' disaster. This was a gosh darn implosion. I don't give a flying hoot who the quarterback was. This offense is dead. Oh, my God. It was a disaster but of epic proportions and, prime time. And I tweeted this out during the game. So the Jets only have and probably only will have one primetime game all year. And that was a Thursday night game that just happened tonight. And in a performance like this, I said this before the year that, okay, Jets fans who wanted a lot more primetime games, if you want more primetime games, you got to make sure you perform like hell in the Thursday night game. And they didn't, obviously, scoring 3 points, and the 3 points was gift wrap thanks to Quinnen Williams. And in the broadcast, during the broadcast, I'm sure you guys heard it, Herbie and Al Michaels were making jokes. They went, Jets Jaguars is on the schedule. This is what they were saying when they first saw the schedule way back when they first got it for the prime schedule. They went LOL, that's going to be a great game, psych. And then it does have these playoff implications later. And then the Jets lay an egg, and they're like, we never want to put the Jets on ever again. So that certainly didn't help their case for next year and putting them in more primetime games. Now, of course, as a lot of fans correctly tweeted at me, if the Jets get insert superstar quarterback, and we went through a lot of names, then of course they will then get primetime games. That's the same thing that happened with Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos, perhaps a little bit more aggressively. But they just need a quarterback, and we don't have one. And man, that hurts to say, and it hurts to admit out loud, to be honest. Patrick Lee Jennings, it wasn't even a game. We got beat on all three levels. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, we did. Again, Braxton Berrios can't return kicks anymore. That's stunning. It's not even he's even average. He's below average. We couldn't run the ball worth a damn. We couldn't pass the ball worth a damn. Our defense was getting kind of walk the dog all over by Trevor Lawrence. So after the first strip sack on that first series, we were like, oh, yeah, baby. They said, oh, well, Quinnen Williams is never going to be a factor ever again outside of the one screen he popped up to. That was a really intelligent play. They're like, we're just going to get the ball out of our hands quick and just chop, chop, chop all the way down the field. And it worked. And the Jets had no counterpunch to that. So for as bad as Zach was, and he was bad, I don't want any excuses on that. The defense was walked all over. They allowed 19 points, but again, which is a fine point total, but this Jets defense is supposed to be elite. So, man, that was tough. That was tough. Up for debate with Scoop. I still think our OC and coach are the problem. I disagree. The OC, again, there were some calls from Mike LaFleur, but again, at the end of the day, the other point that I bring up that's completely just I'm sold on now is the Nick Wright tweet I talked about. Any other quarterback that's not named Zach Wilson that's come in has had success. So eventually, it's like the thing I make fun of with Taylor Swift all the time. If she keeps talking about all these horrible breakups in her life, maybe she's the problem. Maybe. Maybe she's the problem. If you keep writing songs about all these horrible people in your life and there's one commonality and it's you. So in this case, we all say, well, Zach Wilson's being held back by this play caller, this. But all these other guys are having success. Maybe he's the problem. I don't know. So, Hawk, playoffs. Yeah, I'm very down in the dumps. So it's hard for me to even believe that. It's hard for me to believe that at this point. Christian, I live in Duval. Oh, boy. Good luck with that, Christian. I feel so sorry for you. Hawk, the whole staff is in way over their heads and they're passing blame around like a gosh darn hot potato. Yeah, it's tough to see. It's just tough to see. It's tough to see. And it's just this or this or this. I just don't want excuses. I don't want blame game. I just want results, and we didn't get them. GB 515, Zach is an all-time bust. It sucks that both of our top three quarterbacks we have taken have failed miserably. Correct. Sam Darnold, top three pick, failed. Zach Wilson, swing the bat, failed. And it just sucks because, of course, if this is a dust statement, but if the Jets hit on that quarterback, we're talking about a playoff team right now. Again, the good news is that you've got a young core. So it's not like the 2015 team and it's going to come crashing down, at least in my opinion. I think there's a strong core here. So you're going to have this winning window if you get a good quarterback. And maybe next year the Jets are competing. But I think I could speak for all Jet fans that we're sick of next year. We're sick of next year. We're sick of next year. I've had enough of people patting me on the head. Oh, get them next year, pal. They've been telling me that for 11 goddamn years. About to be 12. Candidly, to be honest, fuck your next year. I don't like swearing on the show very often, but come on. Screw your next year, man. Unbelievable. Grand PC. That was painful. Being out coached the last two games just as troublesome as our poor quarterback play. Yeah, that happened as well, obviously. Dan Campbell in that game. And then this one, Doug Peterson, an offensive wizard, just had the right combination, the right counter punches. enough of the counter punches to Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbricht's defense. Christian, enough of the bleeping excuses. Zach Wilson is not the guy. No, I think he is not the guy. I am pretty certain. Matthias, Strevler moved the ball better than Zach. He did. Hawk, I mean, as bad as Zach played, putting Strevler in makes his staff look like a joke. I don't know if I would go that far, but it just goes to show they're willing to do anything for a spark with their lives on the line. Although some would say that they went to that too late. It was late in the third quarter, so at that chance you wouldn't have it. But I would also say, how sustainable was the Strevler thing going to be when he kept running the same play over and over again? Let's see. Yep, Chris Strevler takes Christian Mejia wants Aaron Rodgers. I'd be all for that. Depending on price, I would not be for the Brad Spielberger price that included 2 1s, 2 2s, and a bunch of other crap. Nah, I'm not paying that much, but I'd be interested. Matt A. Hey, at least we know he's definitely not the guy. I guess that's fair to have that level of conviction, not have these Sam Darnold situations where, oh man, it was the offensive line. Oh man, it was the coaching. Yeah, I have a stronger level of conviction that he's not the guy here with this team anyway. And that's as Hawk says. Zach might have a future in the league, but not with this team. I hope he leaves the division because I would hate to have that come back to bite us. That's for damn sure. And again, to me, I wholly believe in a division. What do I call it? A division tax. And we've seen it actually happen, quite frankly. The NFC North, you saw it with the Lions and Vikings. They had the big blockbuster trade up where the Lions came back from the back end of round 1, jumping to 12 to get Jameson Williams. And it was kind of a fair trade from the pick evaluation chart. And then also the TJ Hawkinson trade the other side. To me, if the Patriots, Bills, or Dolphins called the Jets up and said, hey, we want Zach Wilson, I don't know if that would really happen, but if they said, hey, we want Zach Wilson, I'm like, if I was asking for a 1, I'm making all of this up. But if I was asking for a 1 and the Patriots, Dolphins, or Bills called, I'd say it's a 1+. Like, it's a different price for you than it is for any other team in the league. Well, I am charging an extra price to trade inside my own division because, to your point, Hawk, that can come back to bite you in some way, form, or fashion. So hell to the no. Am I trading it inside the division, Zach Wilson, or any player for that matter, unless it's an extra price? So I could see him being traded to a team like, who's a good example? Whatever the team is, here's the foundation for that trade is that you trade him to a place that has an established quarterback that's going to be around for another year, 2, 3, whatever. And then Zach Wilson could just learn from that guy, redshirt a bunch of years, just sit there, learn, and maybe then something like, this is a bad example, but like Patrick Mahomes. Like, so he just sits behind Mahomes and he's like cryogenically frozen. Maybe he's a future trade asset or something, but maybe someone a little older than Patrick Mahomes, like this one is a closer example, like Ryan Tannehill, who's like 32. Like if the Titans wanted to take a dart throw on him, that to me would make a lot of sense. All right, I'm going to skip down to the bottom, guys, and then I'm going to work my way back up. I will tell all of you guys this. The free way all of you guys can contribute right now to the show is by liking the video, hitting subscribe down below, because regardless of whether the Jets are heading to the playoffs or not, that looks unlikely. We're going to have a full, sexy offseason of wonderful superstar guests joining us to, speculate and discuss the quarterback possibilities, trade possibilities, draft, and all that other stuff. We're back in draft mode, people. It's time is a flat circle. So feel free, guys. You guys can contribute in the free way by liking the video and hitting subscribe. Also, the YouTube Super Chat feature, which I'm about to bring up here from Jets Cubs Fan 29. You get a highlighted color. You throw a little change in our tin cup, and you help support the show. So if you like what you're hearing, you like what you're seeing, you can support the show in that way, or simply subscribe to our YouTube channel's membership, the Boy Green Super Fan Club, for a cup of coffee every month. You can help support the show. Jets Cubs Fan 29. Oh, Paul, can't sleep. Absolutely disgusting. Kept telling myself this is the game that he turns it around over and over and over. Same crap. I'm done with him. Jets Cubs Fan, we are exactly in the same line of thinking. I couldn't sleep, so I had to do this live stream. I thought, you know what? It's getting kind of late because, again, for my job, so people could kind of get, behind the curtain. As soon as the game ends, we put up a final score graphic on our Heavy on Jets page. So there's Facebook analytics and algorithms that tell us how often we should post on our page. So a bunch of stuff you guys don't care about. However, when we post the final score graphic, I normally wait an hour before we post anything else. That's normally an article that you guys can kind of read. So I grab some Zach Wilson stuff. And then an hour after that, we do the live stream. So that's why our live streams and shows are 2 hours after. Although I kind of like it personally because I get to hear from Robert Saleh. I heard that full press conference. I heard from Zach Wilson. We can maybe play a couple of those bites during the show today. So I kind of get a much more measured response than the normal emotional. If I just hit live as soon as the game's over, unbelievable, can you believe what we just saw? So like I'm a lot more measured in my approaches. Again, I'm still angry and can still share those emotions. But yeah, I share the same as you, Jets Cubs fan. I'm just disgusted. And I was telling myself the same thing. This is the game, prime time. This is an opportunity to shut everybody up. And a few people are, freezing cold taking me by bringing up some of my old Zach Wilson stuff that I was hoping it was going to be right. By the way, guys, you guys can feel free to throw all that in my face. You can Twitter search that and throw it in my face. I believe in Zach Wilson. Again, I just admitted at the beginning of the show, I was one of his most avid supporters. And again, obviously, I am off the bandwagon. I'm done. I'm done after this. It's hard for me to envision myself bouncing back from that. So brutal, just brutal, absolutely brutal. But Jets Cubs fan, thank you so much for commiserating with us and throwing $5 on the YouTube super chat. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Thank you, man. All right, let me. I'm going to work my way from most recent up. Let me see. Let's see. This is probably a weird way to do it in reverse order, but let me just see. You have to bring in a quarterback before these players get tired of this. Again, I can't imagine them bringing someone in randomly off the street for the final 2 games. It's going to be who they have. But obviously, heading into next year, Zach Wilson is the only quarterback under contract. So I do believe ultimately they're going to be bringing in a lot of people. Matthew Smith on our YouTube. Corey Davis should be out of here. Yeah, he's done. I have had enough of him too. Straight garbage. How do you drop a straight, beautiful pass right in your gut? Right in your gut. It's right in your hands, rather. It's right freaking there. Absolute perfect dime, and he drops it. He's had drops. He's been injury or prone. I've had enough of Corey Davis. He is a guy I cannot wait until he's gone. I hate saying that about another person's job and livelihood, but I cannot wait until he's gone. Freaking hate what he's brought to the team, or in this case, what he hasn't brought. Let's see. I see like a draft package or trade package. Joseph on our Facebook page. Let Zach work hard and look good for a trade, probably a 4th or 5th. Or a decent lineman. Let's just run 60 times a game. Let the defense do something. Maybe we can play a low-scoring game for a W. Just keep Strev in. I could see them, again, now that the Jets, technically their playoff lives are still alive. We just talked about it earlier, according to, they're not going to be mathematically eliminated. However, I would say that if Mike White's healthy, I'm sure they put him in against Seattle. But, with all the rib fractures, I strongly doubt that he's going to be back. Again, that's not sourced information. That's just what my gut says. And so we'd see Zach Wilson the rest of the way. And again, I guess that's the only thing you could hope for is some sort of, stock up a la Sam Darnold, who went for 3 draft picks, by the way, a 2, a 4, and a 6. So you could only hope that you get some of that for sure. Let's go to NGBNF Bullet. Jimmy G and Mike White should be the quarterback room until we find a young guy. Yeah, see, this is the tough thing because I have an article that's up on Heavy on Jets, but it won't be on our Facebook page till tomorrow. Mike Tannenbaum joined Rich Cimini on a podcast, and basically they were going back and forth about how do you handle this Mike White situation. This is before this game, obviously. And they're talking about what the money could look like. And again, my own projections before even hearing Mike Tannenbaum is I believe Mike White is going to command on the open market somewhere between $10 million per year to about $16 million per year, somewhere in that range, because there's quarterbacks. The quarterback market is always scarce, and somebody's going to pay a guy. Because he's shown a little bit. Remember Matt Flynn a couple years ago, 3-year deal, $22.5 million. Of course, Russell Wilson ends up ending him and everything else. Mitchell Trubisky got a nice little deal. Insert random veterans that kind of bounce around. So Mike White's going to get money, but in this case, like So their projection on the Tannenbaum interview was a 3-year deal for $45 million. There's no way you can give Mike White 3 years for 45, and then Jimmy Garoppolo, who's gonna command 25 to 30 per year. So like he's probably getting like a 3-year deal for 90 million. Can you give 90 million to one guy and then 45 million to another guy? I don't know. I don't know if a Mike White, Jimmy G room can coexist unless Mike White takes a super friendly deal. And why would he? So I'm not sure that quarterback room, NGBNF bullet can coexist with the money that I expect him to get, to be honest with you. But that's interesting. Paul Molina, let's go get Lamar. Again, if Lamar's available, let's chat. Joe Douglas loves his picks, and obviously they did a really good job of the picks in this past draft. But I am, of course, open to getting a former MVP on the team. I'd be very interested. Bye Barrios. Balls be hurting. That's a YouTube name for all of us. Yes. So Braxton Barrios, I'd be fine with him being gone too. That was it's been tough to see. Abe Lab Studios. Do we have a shot at any real draft prospect who could be good by day one? I'll tell you this, Abe Lab. I'm going to be perfectly blunt, and I wish more people would be like this in their life. I've looked at absolutely zero mock drafts in terms of just reading for my own. Maybe one, actually. That's a lie. There was one that I looked at because I heard Dane Brugler, who I'm a big fan of The Athletic. He mocked a Trenton Simpson linebacker from Clemson to the Jets. So I did write one column on a mock draft randomly during the bye week. But besides that, I haven't read anything draft. I listen to draft podcasts, but I'm going to be honest. I've been like, oh man, who are these other teams going to take? Like, I haven't even thought about the Jets, but that's because we've been in playoff mode, which is a good first world problem. So, Abe Lab, we're going to have to get back to you. We had a great draft season last year. Charles Davis, Trevor Sikkema, Connor Rogers, all your favorite draft people were on. So, guys, if you like all that stuff, again, like the video, hit subscribe, hit the bell notification so you never miss those videos. So I cannot answer that question now, but I will give you a more informed answer when I dive in deeply, and I guess that'll happen start this weekend, probably for Christmas. Let's go. Dolphins fan jumping in. Okay, that's always interesting. Hey guys, Dolphins for life here. I'm sorry for your team's struggles. I'm not sure why the Jets have been missing on quarterback, especially when Zach looked promising coming into last year's draft. Yeah, I don't know. Your guess is better than ours, Jay Fins fan. So good luck in the playoffs if you make it. Hopefully you guys win a playoff game. You haven't done that in like 20 years. So, that's not – I didn't mean that as a slight, but that sort of came off bitchy. But, hey, I'm kind of feisty coming off the Thursday night game. So I do kind of apologize for that. Wilson has to go. I like Mike White, but he can't stay healthy. Again, that's a big concern for me on any Mike White money deal. Is that Mike White has had injuries in back-to-back years. Now, it's one of two things. Either Mike White has legitimate durability issues, and that will be a problem, or number two, he's had unfortunate luck with injuries, and then moving forward, he's going to be completely healthy. A guy to mirror in terms of NFL trajectory is Matthew Stafford. He was injured early in his career, and we're like, oh boy, injury prone, but then eventually he turned it around and he was healthy for the rest of his career up until this most recent thing with the Rams' neck and all that extra issues. So, there are chances that injuries are just a random thing that happen to people and then they're gone. And sometimes they linger in there forever. So, like I said, from that standpoint, we'll see what Mike White is. But that makes it even harder because it's a small sample size for Mike White and the durability concerns. Do you give him the bag and then he gets hurt? And then we're in the same gosh darn position that we were in last year. So that's going to make it quite difficult. I imagine, in terms of the Jets' decision-making this offseason. But I will say that the level of conviction of tonight's performance for me, and I talked about this earlier in the week, if Zach Wilson sucked, he did. 50% completion percentage, sub 100 passing yards. I know he got benched in the middle of the game. Doesn't matter. And he threw that bad pick. I know it's at the end of the half, but he missed a couple other picks that he could have had during the game. So for me, now that you know that Zach Wilson's not the guy, at least in my opinion, there's now a strong level of conviction, and that's the one thing you can walk out of this game with, is every Jet fan, every Jet fan may be saying this, but Joe Douglas or Robert Saleh looking at each other in an imaginary room right now going, we know what we got to do this offseason. We need to attack the quarterback position. And again, whoever that is, we need to go through that list. We need to power rank that list. And we need to make some aggressive pitches to quarterbacks to come here and let's go win some gosh darn games. So I think there is a level of conviction from that standpoint. coming off this game. And if that's what the Jets can do, if this game leads them to that would be perfect. Justin Lawson here. Pat sat behind Alex Smith, was perfect. Yeah, he sat for him for his rookie season. He played in the final game of the year. They had all their playoff stuff locked up, but he did in that scenario, and it worked out. So maybe that's all Zach would need. Potentially, that's possible. Will Garrett Wilson want to be here? Well, he's a rookie, and I don't imagine any of that changing. I think he loves everything that's going on in terms of the team, not like obviously losing. He doesn't like to lose, I'm sure, but he seems to be a good leader. Like after the game, I tweeted out a screenshot or clip or photo, whatever you want to call it, of him kind of pulling Zach Wilson aside and giving him some words of encouragement after the game, after obviously a rough game where he got benched. He was booed throughout the entire game, and I can't blame fans for the booing because, again, as Zach Wilson said after the game, hey, I can't blame them for booing. We didn't do crap on offense, and it starts with me. So a lot more accountability from Zach Wilson. That's also good to hear from that standpoint. So I think Garrett Wilson will be just fine from that perspective. But appreciate you, Matthew, for asking. I'm seeing a lot of conversation with you guys in here. That's always good. Let's see. I'm seeing some draft quarterbacks. Maybe I don't foresee that happening. I think the Jets are done with the draft stuff. They want a guy who could step in right now. Hennessy Heisman. They get Rodgers next year. Don't care what it takes. Again, there's a great relationship, obviously, between the Jets and Packers organizations, and that's a basis of anything. And while his contract is crazy, again, I would highly recommend checking out the post. You'll see it's the Blockbuster trade post on the Heavy on Jets page if you guys want to check it out. You guys can go see that. We got into the details of an Aaron Rodgers trade and what that could potentially look like from that perspective. And there is a loophole in the contract that can make it somewhat manageable potentially for a contract. Awesome. This is, we don't get these often, but the YouTube super sticker button for Joseph, throwing that in there for 99 cents. Happy holidays, Joseph. And thank you so much, buddy, for supporting the show in these dark times. That is even more important than sometimes when supporting during the good times, but supporting during all times are really important. So super sticker, my boy Joseph, dropping in the love. I love that. Crypto Crossy, I see Zach Wilson bench for CFL Grey Cup winner. Yes, Chris Strevler is 100%. He is a former CFL champion for sure. Let's see. Ty Pierre, Mike White could be the future for the Jets because he actually moves the ball downfield. Yeah, he does go through his progressions really quickly. He actually had a great bite with this on Tony Romo on some behind the scenes with CBS, talking about his superpower and kryptonite is that he goes through progression so quickly that sometimes he goes through it too quickly and kind of goes over the top and goes through reads when other routes are developing. So it is both a blessing and a curse in a lot of ways. Christian Mejia, I don't care about Zach's accountability anymore. He's not a Steve Young. He's a Jamarcus Russell. Oof, purple drank. I don't want no positive talk about Westland like we say in Jersey and New York. Get him the beep out of here. I understand. I understand why people don't want to hear about that anymore. So I respect it. I respect fans that don't want to hear any of that anymore. They just want to, they want results, and I can't blame them for that. Joey Kaz with the stickers. Damn right. That's we always appreciate the stickers and all the support in general. Thank you. You guys have been wonderful. Wonderful. Jet Unleashed. We could cut Mosley for $17 million. So anyone who's asking the cap questions, here's a couple of quick bullet points to keep in mind. Carl Lawson's got a non-guaranteed $15 million. And while he had, again, a couple of more pressures tonight, he doesn't have the sack number. So they can either make him take a severe pay cut or cut him loose. So there's $15 million. Corey Davis, you could save $9.5 million, somewhere in that ballpark for cutting him. There's $9.5 million to take. There's one more player, Corey Davis, Carl Lawson. There's one more I'm not thinking of. That's another big one. But so long story short, while it appears the Jets don't have the normal money that they normally would on a given year, they actually can create a lot of cap money from a couple of moves like that. Laken Tomlinson could be a restructure. CJ Mosley is another one that could be a restructure. The Pro Bowler himself. We got more into the Pro Bowl conversation. If you want some positive video talk, that was yesterday on the YouTube channel. You guys can feel free to check that out. Some Pro Bowl historical nuggets and some other fun stuff. Steven Rosiak. Hey, Paul, this team is one big-time quarterback or one or two offensive linemen away from a Super Bowl appearance. I completely agree with that, Steven, to be honest with you. ABT is going to be healthy. He'll be back next year. Mekhi Becton, you hope, is healthy, so you can throw that into the mix, and fingers crossed that can happen for you. Connor McGovern's a free agent. He's been really good this year. Max Mitchell and the blood clots, that's kind of unknown. George Fant's a free agent. You got your guard and Nate Herbig. He's actually a free agent as well. So there's a lot of upheaval to potentially be had there on the offensive line. But yes, if you can figure out that and insert really good quarterback, I'm all for, rolling out the team and see what happens. Again, I think you got to fix safety too, although give a major tip of the cap, of course. Give a major tip of the cap to Jordan Whitehead, who I thought had a really good night tonight, especially with some of the tackles as well. So I would say that. Another YouTube super chat coming in. Alex throwing $5 down. Happy holidays, Alex. I love the avatar too. That's really cool. Thank you for supporting the show, brother. Get Anthony Richardson with the 18th pick next draft. Dude's a beast for Florida. Yeah, I can't remember if we talked about it here on the show, but I did write one article about it because I think it was a Connor Rogers mock draft suggestion. As a developmental guy the Jets can take. And literally you're taking this guy and he's completely riding as your second, third string developmental guy behind the scenes and taking kind of a dart throw, the Florida Gator product. I've seen some of his highlights are unbelievable. The problem, the good and bad, and why he would have to sit, he is so raw, is that he has these crazy super athletic plays, like he's doing spin moves in the pocket, rolling out, staying alive. And then on other plays, he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat, and he can't hit the broadside of a barn from a drive to drive. So kind of some of those same problems as Zach Wilson. It has a lot of the talent. But this one, you would just know fully going in, and this is why he's going to slip. I don't think he's going to be like a top 5 pick, but whether he's a top 20 pick or at worst like an early day 2 guy in the second round, that's the kind of guy that you bet on the trades and you bring him into your program and you just really develop the heck out of him. That's something I could completely see. So yes, Anthony Richardson, I know he doesn't have the AR-15 nickname anymore, so whatever his newest nickname is, again, he's a stud, a lot of talent. Again, a lot of volatility to his game in terms of what he could potentially be in terms of a ceiling, and then also the floor is unquestionably low. So it is a roller coaster, but that's a guy that would be intriguing. But again, I'm not sure it happens in the first round though for the Jets. My gut tells me at this point it's going to be offensive tackle. I'm leaning like 90% offensive tackle, and then outside shot at a linebacker. Depending if you bring back Quincy, do you bring back Quan, and then the CJ Mosley thing. So that would be another outside shot. My gut tells me right now offensive tackle or a linebacker, and I'm leaning offensive tackle. But if Anthony Richardson was there in the second round, I could see the Jets making a play. Geno Smith style, Christian Hackenberg style, second round quarterback dart throw, see what happens. Obviously, the Hackenberg one didn't work out, neither did Geno Smith for that matter, but it did a bunch of years later as well. But yeah, he is super talented for sure. Good question. Good comment, Alex. I love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. Guys, if you have any more comments, super chats for sure. Okay. I see another one coming in here. Crypto Crossy. Love that. And by the way, guys, feel free to jump in on the YouTube super chat game for the holidays. Just need a quarterback beyond developmental. I agree. But so you have Zach Wilson. Are you keeping Zach Wilson? Are you trading Zach Wilson? What do you do with Zach Wilson? That's a big one because Zach Wilson, in theory, could kind of shift into that quote unquote developmental role as a guy because he's the only quarterback under contract for next year. Something I would do is this as an example. This is a possible plan. You have Zach Wilson. So you just keep him on the roster. You sign, I don't know, Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay. So you got Jimmy G, you got Zach Wilson, and then I either draft a guy or I take like God, I'm trying to think of a good example because these guys will probably be too expensive. Like a Tyler Huntley is going to be a free agent. A Jacoby Brissett's going to be a free agent. And I don't think Jacoby Brissett wants to just come in and be that second string backup. He probably thinks he could try to get some kind of starting gig on a mid-tier team. So again, Zach Wilson, I would keep as that developmental guy, so kind of move him down the line, bring in a proven guy, Jimmy Garoppolo, Tom Brady. I'm trying to look at free agents. You bring him in, And then you're probably not also drafting another developmental guy. Probably not, but it is possible on day 3 of the draft, you add a guy in that realm and you have Jimmy G, Zach Wilson, and then random day 3 draft guy. But I would like 3 quarterbacks in the room. I know, some people have different philosophies on that, 2 quarterbacks, 3 quarterbacks in terms of some of those conversations, but it would kind of depend. But 100%, it is going to be an aggressive QB offseason. So we're going to get a lot of crazy. We're going to get a lot of crazy discussions. But Crypto Crossy, I freaking love the question. I love the super chat. Thank you so much. All right, let me see if we missed any other YouTube super chats coming in. Feel free, guys. Any amount is awesome. And again, the free way to contribute to the show, all of you guys can do this that are watching right now, even if you don't have the funds to be able to, and no shame if you don't. Liking and subscribing to the channel helps me expand the channel. We just got over 3,000 subscribers. Golf clap to ourselves. Golf clap there. Pat on the back for just got over 3,000 subscribers, which is really cool. And we want to keep going. So 4,000 is the new goal, baby. Let's be the first 4,000-yard passer since Joe Namath. So let's get a 4,000-yarder in there as well. For sure. That'd be great. Just double checking, make sure I didn't miss anyone's super chat. I would hate to do that. I try to get to all your guys' comments, but we have hundreds of comments in here, so I'm going to miss somebody. But I try to make sure I always get to the super chats. We just have another YouTube super chat coming in. Awesome. We'll put the wrong one up here. Okay, we got a Zyqua here, or Zayqua. Excuse me if I'm butchering your name, my friend. If you're the Jets, would you be interested in Derek Carr? Yes, I would be. I'd want to know trade compensation. That would be a big piece for me because Derek Carr, I think from a perception standpoint, from the Jets fan base, like they're like, ugh, Derek Carr, like mid, but he's not really. Like, especially if you compare like Derek Carr's numbers, they'd be some of the best numbers in Jets franchise history. Now, that's also because the Jets just haven't had a lot of great quarterbacks historically. Like Joe Namath, for instance, like just a random example, like Joe Namath. Okay, he was the first 4,000-yard passer in NFL history, and he's the only 4,000-yard passer in Jets history. One guy, and that was in a 14-game season. And 4,000-yard passing should be happening on an any given year basis because of how the passing game is developed. So it speaks to how poorly Jets quarterbacks have played that they have not gotten that feature. Like Derek Carr is a perennial 4,000-yard guy. He's put up video game numbers, and in theory, putting that quarterback in claw machine, grabbing him up and dropping him on the Jets with a better offensive line, better talent. Devontae Adams is really good, but again, an overall better talent around him. That to me would be incredibly intriguing. So what would it cost though? I'm not giving up like I've seen a couple of proposals out there, like a first and a third. That seems a little aggressive for me for Derek Carr. I'd be in the conditional, 2-3 ballpark potentially, on playing time or playoff ascension, some level of a conditional from that standpoint. I mean, he'd be highly intriguing. There's no question about it. He has put up some numbers, and he would be intriguing. So what would it cost? It would have to be trade. I don't imagine the Raiders are going to cut him because of the scarcity of the quarterback market. Again, I don't believe they would just straight up release him. Maybe. But they also don't have an immediate option on that bench. So I think that's another factor in all of this chat, one way or another. But I like the question. Thank you so much. Let's go. Another YouTube super chat coming in. Jack, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate your support for the show. Chances Jets make moves on Lamar Jackson. Here's the thing. Let's lay the Lamar Jackson thing out there. It's a very popular move people want to do. He's set to be an unrestricted free agent. The Ravens would be absolutely gosh darn bonkers to not tag him. Like, at the very least, you tag him so you have options. You can tag and trade. You just retain his rights so you can try to negotiate a long-term deal. It seems like Lamar Jackson wants the Deshaun Watson contract, a fully guaranteed deal, which, by the way, I'm willing to give Lamar Jackson. He wants that. Let's go. So even if the Ravens aren't willing to give that deal, they know some other NFL team will be. Agent can put out feelers, and then you make the trade basically that the Browns and Texans did, where you send a bunch of draft picks, and part of the trade negotiation is the new team signing insert player to this monster contract. So chances Jets make a move on Lamar Jackson, 5%. It's not because they don't have interest. I'm sure they would, as would a lot of teams. But the only way Lamar Jackson would be allowed to make that happen is a couple of things. First off, you'd have to go scorched earth and say, screw you, Baltimore. You franchise tag me. I'm not playing on that gosh darn franchise tag. You can bend over, and I'm going to show you the 50 states. I'm going to show you where you can shove that franchise tag. And all of a sudden, the Ravens go, man, we don't just want to keep this malcontent on the team. I guess we got to trade him. Like, he would have to, like, burn bridges and be willing to go to the deepest, darkest parts of the earth. Some people are willing to do that. Some people aren't. Now, we don't kind of know until they're put in that position. Cough, cough, Jamal Adams, where he's trying to shoot his way out of town. So sometimes you don't know how people are going to react until they're in those situations. But I would put it at like 5% of realistically happening, because you'd have to pay a ridiculous contract. You'd have to figure out how that's going to work. You'd have to acquiesce the Ravens by giving them an unbelievable package that included like 2 first-round picks plus. So a Russell Wilson deal plus, because of how young Lamar Jackson is now, proven he is from that standpoint. So the money, the compensation, and then figuring out all the other pieces to the puzzle. There's some logistics involved as well. Again, I would put it at 5%. In terms of what their interest would be, 150%. But sometimes interest in things coming together don't always work in that fashion. But a very interesting question, Jack. A lot of people have been asking about Lamar Jackson, so I'm glad we're able to use this platform to kind of address that. Josh Bryan, okay, you guys are rolling on the YouTube Super Chats. Thank you so much. Appreciate this. This is great. What do you think about Ryan Tannehill? Just wrote an article about this actually a couple weeks ago on Heavy on Jets. I have a good Titans insider I'm very close with, Mike Herndon, who used to be with Music City Miracles, also works with Paul Kaharski of the Tennessee Titans. And he's a guy that could be available. I believe he's got, it's either, I may butcher this number off the top of my head. Next year, he's got a non-guaranteed salary of somewhere between, I think it's $27 million, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not in terms of the quarterback annual salaries. And that could be negotiated as part of a trade. And according to the Titans insider I spoke with, the price to acquire a Ryan Tannehill would be like Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz package. Matt Ryan went for a straight up third. Carson Wentz went for a combination of thirds and some change with conditional measures. So I think Ryan Tannehill is a guy who's got a limited ceiling. There's like, he's not going to be a top 5 quarterback in the league, but he's got a high enough floor. And maybe that's exactly what the Jets are looking for. So you bring in a guy like this, who is super athletic and can just run an offense and do what you need him to do. Now, can he put you on his back and win the Super Bowl by his own plays? He hasn't proven capable of doing that. But Ryan Tannehill is incredibly intriguing, a bit of an older guy at 32, former top 10 pick of the Miami Dolphins, of course. He is intriguing. Again, he's probably not sexy. He's not winning the contest. This is not the girlfriend you're bringing home to mom and saying, Mom, look what I brought home. Okay, probably not. He's probably not there on the sexy scale. Like, you're probably not proud of this. You're probably not, again, this is probably someone that you're sneaking in as a date because you don't want your parents to meet this individual. You just want to, fling around, mess around. Like, you don't want anything serious with this individual. That's how I would venture out in terms of the dating game here with Ryan Tannehill. Again, it's not sexy, not someone you want to marry potentially, but it could be an interesting band-aid, especially if you do that Anthony Richardson option that we talked about earlier. You trade for Tannehill for a bag of beans, 3rd-round pick, 4th-round pick, whatever. So you bring him in, you have an answer for right now. You draft an Anthony Richardson to develop, and he just firmly sits behind Tannehill. He's never coming in. And you keep like Zach Wilson or something as a guy who has to come in if Tannehill gets hurt. And then you have Anthony Richardson cryogenically frozen as this developmental guy. That could certainly be possible from that standpoint. Again, I don't imagine that will be one of the sexier options for Jet fans as they're exploring the quarterback market this offseason. Like, how high will he be on the list? I imagine not very for Jet fans, but it may be one of those ones where you're not excited about it on the surface, but like when he's actually here, you're like, okay, that's not that bad. So that could certainly be a way that I foresee that playing out, Josh. But I'm glad you brought that up. Not a lot of people have been asking about Ryan Tannehill, and I guess that speaks to the sexiness question we were just talking about. I just want to make sure we didn't miss any YouTube super chats in here. A lot of them coming in. So, guys, feel free. If you have the means, we'll give you a shout out on the show. Dive through some more quarterback options. That's kind of a fun Russian roulette thing we have going on the quarterbacks. That's really cool. On Lamar Jackson, Ryan Tannehill, and others. Derek Carr was another one. So if you guys have any of those, feel free to send those in. Make sure I didn't miss any of those coming in for the Jets quarterback. And that's going to be a fun thing for this offseason. The quarterback position is sexy. It's a position, we can all kind of dive into full flower and say, speculative. It's fun to kind of like dive in from that standpoint to try to figure out, again, whether or not it's going to be this guy or that guy or this guy or that guy. Again, the Jets can figure out the cap perspective on these quarterbacks coming in, but I think the real big thing is making sure you pick the right guy. There's a lot of guys out there. There's going to be a lot of options, but picking the right guy is going to be important to bring that guy in, because you only get so many whacks at the proverbial pinata. So Joe Douglas, you need to evaluate all these options, stack them almost power ranking style, and say, okay, who's the guy that gives us the best chance to win a Super Bowl? What's the cost-effective strategy to acquire that individual? Is it a free agent? Is it a trade? Is it draft? Again, a draft would probably be last on my priority list. I don't imagine they're drafting a guy to be the answer after all the quarterback drafting problems they've had. Probably a veteran, a guy that you know what you're getting when you're acquiring that individual, whether that comes through free agency, whether that comes through trade or what have you. I think that's going to be a powerful part of the conversation, certainly moving forward from that perspective. I would venture to guess from that. Josh on the Ryan Tannehill thing. Good question though. Very good question. I will say, as we're kind of wrapping up here again, if you guys have any other questions, you want to send those in last second, we will bring those up on the show. So feel free if you'd like. I will throw the super sticker up again to give Joseph some more love for sending that earlier. Thank you so much, Joseph. Appreciate that, pal. But yes, the Jets have up. I see another YouTube super chat just came in here. So let's just make sure we get to that one quickly before I ramble about the final two games of the season. Okay, let's go to Brendan Brown here on our YouTube channel. Thanks, Brendan, for chiming in here at 2:15 in the morning. Look at this. We're crazy. Why are mid-first-round quarterbacks better than early first-rounders? Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Fields. We could try that. Take line and safety this year, and the Texas 2024 kid. Yeah, I will say this. I don't know if there's actual, like, you're bringing up really good examples. Allen, I still think Allen was top 10. Mahomes was top 12. Herbert was top 6, and Fields was top 12. So it's not some of those examples aren't quite mid first round, but I kind of get what you're saying with the theory. I don't know if there's exact analytics to say, hey, I'm sure there is that you can go find, but off the top of my head, I don't think there's like, hey, top 10 quarterbacks are like 50-50 and like top 20 quarterbacks in terms of draft position are like, 60%. I don't think it's necessarily that. There's, again, this is what we say all the time about this quarterback getting drafted and going to this spot. For instance, right? So like Zach Wilson, right? Everyone says that Zach Wilson was going to suck anywhere. I think a lot of people say that Kyle Shanahan, that 49ers offense, maybe they're a team that's very interested in Zach Wilson in the offseason. Like if he went there, people say. So I think there is, coaching, the team around you, timing, media markup. There's so many factors that go into whether a quarterback is going to be a success or failure. Of course, their own talent level. Are they good enough? Or do they have the desire to be great? That's another one, of course. Again, players around you, coaching, injury luck, right? Just randomly slipping on a banana when you leave the office. Like there's a million things that get evaluated in these kinds of conversations, Brendan. So I'm not quite sure if there is this mid-first round theory, but that is something, of course, the Jets could try if they feel a level of conviction on one of these guys. And also the crazy thing is like, a lot of these teams got lucky. Like the Chargers should have had to trade up for Herbert to get him. He just kind of fell into their laps. Fields, they did trade up for, so tip of the cap there. Josh Allen, they did trade up for. Patrick Mahomes, they did trade up for. So in 3 of those 4 scenarios you brought up, those were trade up scenarios where the team identified insert quarterback and they said, oh, we got to go get this guy, and they did. Herbert's the only example where they did not. They kind of let whoever Miami didn't take slip into their palms, and they said, I guess we'll take this guy. And obviously that worked out for the Chargers. So they kind of got lucky from that standpoint. But the other 3 were acquired by trade-up scenarios. We will see on Justin Fields. Obviously the 1,000-plus rushing yards this season is really cool, but I want to kind of see the passing game continue to develop. He's been very hit and miss there in all the tape that I've seen this year on Justin Fields. But again, if the Jets, and I will believe, throwing my pen all over the place. based off this last draft from Joe Douglas, where you're potentially going to have the offensive rookie of the year and the defensive rookie of the year, plus all these other guys that contributed in a variety of ways, Michael Clemens, Max Mitchell, etc. If they feel conviction and on draft day they just take somebody mid first round, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they selected the right guy because, quite frankly, they being Joe Douglas and company, deserve the benefit of the doubt because look at the results. This is a results oriented business, and his last draft was chef's kiss, spectacular. So they deserve the benefit of the doubt from that standpoint. So if they do that, which I would be somewhat surprised by, but if they do that, I'll be like, okay, let's ride. Let's see what this thing ultimately is, Brendan. So I'd be somewhat intrigued by that, and I would certainly give this ownership group, management, and coaching staff the benefit of the doubt from that standpoint of potentially saying, okay, maybe they know something we don't from that standpoint. Another super chat coming in here. Cramerica Industries. Okay. ZW is a Ram for a 2023 sixth and a 2024 third. Brutal. I wonder. So here's the thing that's kind of interesting, and this can be open dialogue. So Sam Darnold was traded after 3 years, and immediately the Panthers had to make a decision on his fifth-year option. So, for instance, Mekhi Becton, he just finished his third season. I know technically he didn't finish it because of injury, but the Jets are going to have to make a decision on his fifth-year option after 3 years are complete. So technically, the Jets still have another full year before they have to make that decision. I would imagine Zach Wilson on a rookie contract in terms of a tradable asset is more attractive because he has more time before you have to make decisions. So, like Sam Darnold, you didn't have that benefit, and you still got a second, a fourth, and a sixth. So you got 3 picks for Sam Darnold. And I know a lot of people will say, well, Sam Darnold showed a little bit more than Zach Wilson. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But I would imagine that extra rookie year of cheap control would be incredibly attractive. So I think actually Zach Wilson would get more than a 6 and a third. Maybe I'm totally bonkers. I've been wrong on those kind of things before, but I'm going to be honest. I think they are going to get more, but again, I guess we'll have to kind of see from that standpoint whether or not they do. But I could see the Rams. That could be an interesting one because, again, Matthew Stafford, this could be, I'm not saying it's career threatening, but I've heard a few whispers about that in some of the NFL media circles because of, again, his history of concussions and this neck thing. So, that's up in the air from that standpoint. And then Baker Mayfield's a free agent. So they kind of got a lot of unknown there. So Rams should make sense if Sean McVay wants to rebuild. Does he just hit the eject button and go to the booth? That's something I don't know as well. So a lot to be kind of determined there from that standpoint, whether or not he will get that sort of love from out there. But Sam Darnold had a couple of big time games. So, or big time moments rather. Zach Wilson has had, kind of in between the Titans game, but there was also some bad in that game. I'm trying to think like obviously like he had games like Tampa Bay at the end of last year. We're like, ooh, and he was in the pocket delivering throws. It wasn't just all outside the pocket stuff. So again, maybe there's a team that either relies on their draft grade or just falls in love with some of those wow throws that are easy to fall in love with. And maybe he's the guy that some people are talking about. So that's certainly possible as well. So I think he gets a little more than a third and a sixth, but again, it's going to take team and belief and a few other things from that perspective. All right, let me double check to make sure we didn't get any last second super chats in here. And I do not see any. Okay, I will just tell you guys this. You guys are all crazy that you're here with me 2 a.m. on a Friday now, 2 days out from Christmas. But that's why we all love each other, okay? I want to say happy holidays. Merry Christmas to all of you guys. If we don't talk before Christmas, we'll see what happens. I'm sure I'm going to find some excuse to hop on before Christmas. But just in case I don't, thank all you guys. Again, this was a tough night, a tough game, but one of some conviction where I no longer believe Zach Wilson's a guy, and the Jets now have to go out and seek that quarterback. And hopefully that will finally end the playoff drought next year. Again, there's still a chance. If you want to believe, there is still a chance that the Jets, of course, can make the playoffs. And we will end on that positive note that I will once again read that what has to happen for the Jets to make the postseason. So I will read that for you. This is from Michael Nanny, again, of Jets X Factor. If you still care, here's the Jets' clearest remaining path to the playoffs. So win their last two at Seattle, at Miami. You have to do that no matter what. That's a prerequisite. That's probably the hardest one to see because they've lost 4 in a row. Miami loses one of their next 2, either Green Bay or New England. New England loses at least 2 of their next 3. Cincinnati, Miami, Buffalo. Again, they could lose all 3 of those. And Vegas just has to lose one of their next 3, which is Steelers, 49ers, Kansas City. They're probably going to lose at least 2 of those. So there is a realistic path to the playoffs, but I'm not feeling overly optimistic about it at this standpoint. And I'm not quite sure how I would feel about that. Well, guys, anyway, going back full circle here, I'm going to try to get some sleep before I have to do a radio show in a couple hours here in Syracuse. So I'll try to get some level of shut-eye before I have to be then asked about my Jets again by random callers. But God bless. Happy holidays, everybody. And I hope you guys enjoy your Christmas, Kwanzaa, or Hanukkah, whatever you guys choose to participate in. And we will be back soon enough here on the channel. Again, thank you guys so much for the support. Tough game, but you know what? There's still 2 more games in this season, and there's more speculative talk to be had and draft and everything else. Again, like the video, hit subscribe down below, hit the bell notification so you guys never miss a video. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and try to get some sleep, all right? Happy holidays, baby. Peace out.